Today from r/EntitledParents. Father abuses mother for years. My mother and father have a rough relationship. And by rough, I mean the rockiest one I've seen that has not resulted in a divorce. I'm the second child in an Asian family, and also the second generation overseas, with my parents being the first. My parents didn't really date and things like that before marriage for personal reasons, and did not get to know each other very well. My father had heavy OCD and bipolar symptoms, though was never diagnosed. He ran a business and was an alcoholic back then, while my mother was a nurse. Around 2 years later, my older brother was born, and things started to go down when he was around 4. My father regularly assaulted my mother, mostly when he was drunk, and is really good at cussing people out when he was angry. He usually came back late at night, usually after midnight, and barely get to interact with my brother. I feel really bad for him, because he had to put up with my father's aggressive behavior, and even try to protect my mom sometimes. Note that assaulting your partner and child neglect, at least mild ones, were sort of legal in my country. When my brother was 13, I was born. My father wanted to move to the United States with me, my brother, and my mother, meaning leaving our extended family in our country. My mother didn't even bother to argue with things like these, because it always resulted in an argument and she would get slapped. After moving to the United States, he stopped assaulting my mother and started to harass her instead. My mother at this point didn't even care, because my father is so good at speaking nonsense, and she didn't want to spend time on idiots. My father is very egocentric and demands attention to himself because he carried our family's income, which was kind of true. But then he started demanding attention for minor things and used it against my mother in arguments. Along with all those, he was also quick to assume and always talk too much, leading to untrustworthiness. Lastly, he was also somewhat manipulative and makes himself sound at least a bit right in all situations. After 9 years, he started to pursue Christianity as a religion, mostly cause my grandpa, who passed away 4 days ago, who was an avid Christian. I have no issue with that, but then he started long lectures on my mom about Christianity and how she has to obey him because of the Bible. He's also sort of forced my mother into our local church and to be baptized, but she also sort of did it willingly. After moving to the United States, he visited 1 month every 2 months, but when COVID hit, he was stuck here for 3 years. That was not pleasant at all. My mother was so stressed, she began to go out exercising a lot to relieve stress. My father refuses to acknowledge he caused my mother to do this, and yelled at my mother for doing so. COVID has also affected his business, and that, along with immigration issues, he was also stressed. He yelled at my mother for not supporting his actions, despite her performing most of his demands. He actually assaulted my mother again, but we did not end up calling the police, for Christianity reasons. My mother continued ignoring him, but he did not take the hint and continued harassing her. My older brother provided no help with their relationship because he still hates his dad for what he did to my mother. At that point, my older brother was already done with college and lives in California, so the only person to help my mom is me. Fortunately, he recently left and began to flood her inbox with Bible quotes and lectures. I suspect my mother's PTSD from the 20 years she spent with him. I want to repair their relationship and help my mother's depression. What should I do?